help me to get myself together to get right. Thank you. All right, family. Hope everyone has had a great week. This is getting ready to start a new week. And I'd like to welcome you to episode 7. And this is survival mode. My grandmother's peace with my pause. So tonight I'm going to step into the quiet strength behind my grandmother's final days and what that meant. So with getting started with that, let's pick up with last week. I mentioned we went through the stages of my daughter and us losing her. And now I wanted to get into the next phase of how my rabbit hole continued to go deeper. Let's say we'll put it like that. Continue to go deeper. So now my story with my grandmother is different because that one I had closure. Have you ever, well, I'm sure we probably all have, where someone's here one day and you talk to them, whatever, very recent, and then you get a call that they're gone, stuff like that. That kind of stuff can really be devastating, right? Even when we may be preparing ourselves for loss, when we have terminal illnesses and diseases and different things that are that we're plagued with, it can really rock your world, right? So when Britt passed, we had the funeral on Saturday, and on Monday we were at the doctor's office for her doctor's appointment about the breast cancer. As I mentioned, during their caregiving, for every bit of 3 years, it had been me taking grandmother to dialysis Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Britt in and out of the hospital. Sometimes they will both be in intensive care in 2 different hospitals. So I'm leaving one hospital, going to another hospital, and then when it's time to go home, I'm getting this prescription, getting that prescription, trying to get the house set up, and all kind of stuff. So it was just a collective of, I was just on the go, on the go, on the go. And then we had the loss of Britt, right? And I told you how that story went, on the go. She passed on a Wednesday. We got the information early Thursday. The funeral was on Saturday, and Monday we were at the doctor's office. Okay, that's just going. So we're in the doctor's office, and I mentioned to you. Let me back up because I mentioned so that going, and that morning of the funeral, my grandmother told me she wasn't going to be here much longer. And she had been to the hospital to get her checked up and stuff, all this along the way, probably like a month before Britt passed. And her doctor was telling her she had a body like a 70-year-old. Here she is on dialysis, and she walks in and out of the clinic, just had her little cane. She come out, strutting her little stuff, and her goal was to be here at least to 100. So we had all that going on. And then we had a step forward to Brittany passing, and before we left out the door, grandmother said, I'm not going to be here much longer. And do you know that I've heard people say that people can pass from a broken heart or just like know that, okay, I'm done, and just start breaking down. It's amazing to watch. And caring for my grandmother was very difficult because I'm holding things in for myself to be strong for her. Hey sis, and she is wanting to die, basically. And we're still doing dialysis. We're at the doctor's office. And she decides that she does want to have the breast surgery. So here she is, 90 years old. You know what, do y'all know what I can do about these flies these little gnats? They getting on my nerves. Down, all in my space. Make me come off track. What, man? I'm trying to get back on track. That he's trying to get in my mouth. So, where was I? Doggone it. Hey, Dino. What was I saying, baby?
You were talking about grandma.
Oh, so, yeah, so at she wanted to go ahead with the surgery. So in my mind, I'm thinking she wants to have the surgery, but she doesn't want to live. And that's when my mind kind of switched to her having to go through her grieving process. Because again, like I said before, all of this is new to all of us. We're just not wired to just go through this. We know about it, but when it hits, now we have to experience it, and it's for the first time for everyone. So I started noticing with my grandmother that she said she wanted to die and not be here, but then she wanted to have the surgery. The surgery was scheduled for December. We went through the prep. She still was going to get her numbers checked. All of that stuff was going well. And she was kind of in and out, quiet. Yep, grandmama. And then we had the surgery in December. Once that surgery was done, we had some complications. Hey, Mama and Daddy, we had complications. And it scared me. Because we were home, the surgery went fine, but while we were here, we were headed back to the hospital for like the checkup the next day. And we're riding in the car, and I take her out, and she's sitting in the lobby, and I park the car and I get ready to go up. And my grandmother has blood running down her shirt. And it was dripping onto the floor, but I did not want her to see it because I knew what was going to happen. And she was already kind of touchy. So we get on the elevator, and I was so glad it was just the two of us, and I'm watching it, looking at her, and when we get off the elevator, I turn to the nurses over there, and I just tell them, come here. And they were looking, and I said, and my grandmother, she surprisingly was not paying any of that attention. So the nurses got her and took her on back, and they called the doctor. My grandmother was wondering, like, why is everybody moving so fast? So, but we got her in the back, and the dialysis was a part of the complication for her healing from the surgery, including her age. But mind you, I told you she had the body of like a 70-year-old. She was an amazing woman, strong woman, my rock, my shield. She was just my everything, right? And Britt was her everything. And we get in there, and she's like getting the news where I had to start draining the blood from it even at home. So she wasn't happy about that, and I was jacked up about that. And we had to do what we had to do. So I'm being a nurse now. I've gone from caregiver, nurse. I've been that the whole time too, because I knew how to operate all the stuff in Britt's room in the hospital. I fixed the machine, unstopped the plug. I mean, all kind of stuff. So yeah, I've been a nurse for a long time. I wonder if they should give me a certificate. But anyway, because that was some stuff that I learned, but I was in that survival mode, right? So I'm like, okay, just what do I have to do? What do I have to do? What do I have to do? And I'm just doing it. So I'm draining blood, and I got sterile equipment, and got to put my gloves on, and we trying to nurture this situation with her breast cancer and the surgery and the blood drainage. Well, we kind of get that going. Then we had a couple of situations where we started having like the kidney failure. And we had taken her to the emergency room, like her legs had gotten really swollen and all this and that. This time, grandmother is kind of like, okay, you know, I'm sick of this. And, I shouldn't have done it to begin with. I'm ready to just go. And so we're having that psychological conversation, as well as me still holding things in. Now, during that time, too, I was still grieving about my baby. I would maybe be in the shower where she wouldn't hear me anything, get my tears out, because I always wanted to make sure that I was giving myself time to cry, because that's my baby. And it still hadn't really hit, but I still would cry, you know. Sometimes I cried to get the strength to take that load off so that I could go another day with grandmother too. So when we started having the kidney failure, I had to start draining her bladder. And that was, I had to do a little course with them, had other equipment here, and I was, no, not her bladder, her heart, right. The fluid on her heart. Yeah, I'm trying to reflect back. We're talking about over 10 years now. But yeah, I was draining fluid from her heart for the heart failure. Right, she was starting to have heart failure too. That's what it was. So we got the kidney failure with the dialysis, and then she started having heart failure with the fluid. But she couldn't breathe and all this stuff. So I had to learn how to drain fluid from her heart. And I did it. You know, they were like, okay, we know you can do this. And they had me do a run through while we were there. So we were going to get it drained every week or so, or every few days. And then they said, you know, you can do this, and then you don't have to bring her back like this all the time. So I said, okay. And I had to keep a track of how much I drained, and it was just a lot. And even at that time, I'm still me. I'm still happy. I'm still doing this. I'm trying to be there for grandmother, and I'm just gone. Well, that time came where she was at the dialysis center, and her blood count and her blood numbers just dropped. And they called an ambulance and took her straight to the hospital. And they give me a call. I go to the hospital, and that's when she's in the emergency room. And she calls me in there, and she looked at me. She says, I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. And I don't want you to be mad at me. And I don't want you to spank me. And it was cute because she sounded like a little girl, because I would tell her Don't make me come up here to this dialysis center with my belt and spank you. Because she would try to give them a hard time sometimes. And they'd be like, do we need to call your granddaughter? And she would be like, no, don't call her. It's all right. What you want me to do? You know, you would have to know my grandmother to know how she was. So she says, I don't want you to get your belt. But baby, I'm tired. I don't want to be stuck by another needle. I don't want no more dialysis. I just want to go in peace. What do you say to that? This is the thing that we all have to understand, that that's a choice that she made. She said she was ready to go. And so I told her, I said, Grandmama, I'm not mad. And I understand you're tired and that's what you want. So she's in ICU. I leave out and come back, and she's in ICU on her phone. On her phone, she's calling the pallbearers. She's calling my cousin that's supposed to be doing the eulogy. She's calling everybody, make sure that everybody is going to do their part. She in ICU. The lady was ready to go. No questions asked. Are you ready? Because if not, I need to get a replacement. Honey, that is one thing about that lady that just always blew me away. She had her program already done years ago with what song she wanted, who was doing what, and the names for everybody. And that always amazed me, because I've never seen anybody just have the whole thing planned. Like, we literally took her document to the press to get it printed. We didn't change nothing, update nothing. We knew what she was wearing, the whole nine. So she was fully prepared. And I stood there, I was like, she's on the phone, making sure things are in place. I'm on the phone telling people what's going on. You know, she in ICU now. She don't want to do anything. You know, we have kind of a large family, so my phone is just going off. Then I hear this harp. I have never seen in the ICU unit, all the times that we would be there, it was a lady going around with the harp, and she was playing music, playing the little harp melodies. And I said, wow, and it's so relaxing to hear. Well, I don't know what made her come into our specific room, but she said, I want to come in and play something for you all. Is that okay? I said, sure. I turned my phone off. We closed the curtain, and I got right up under my grandmother, and I held her, rubbed on her face, and the sound of that harp, and she had this little smile on her face. It was the closure that I was able to have with my grandmother that I couldn't have with my daughter. So I know what it feels like for myself to lose someone without closure and lose someone with the closure. So I know the both sides, and both of them, of course, being so close to me, you know, my daughter, my grandmother, and that feeling of the closure I had with her, it just kind of sealed everything. It was like, okay, we got it. The end, period. That was how serious that was and how serious she was. So we said, okay, well, we will get her moved to hospice. But since, of course, if she wasn't going to take any more dialysis treatments, we already knew what was going to be happening. And they were giving her morphine for pain. Now, and we always felt too that grandmother was in more pain than what she would share with us, because she didn't want us to worry, even though we could see things. And I'm like, okay, they're having to give her a lot of pain meds. And her system was like very defiant. Like, they were giving her more, but like, we can't give her no more, because, and she's looking like, okay, well, will y'all give me something, you know? And it was just, I mean, they were like, I can't even believe she's taking this much, being a 90-year-old. And so they did what they could to keep her comfortable. And they got her to hospice. And it was amazing how fast things began to change. So she's in hospice. She spent one night. I don't even think she went through the entire night before she passed. But when we were all there, I was there, hubby, my cousin Bev, Aunt Nat, her sister, my grandmother's sister. At that time, and I may be leaving somebody out, I'm not sure, and mom and dad. And my grandmother started doing this moaning, and she would call out my name, and it would be Angela, Angela. And I said, Grandma, I'm right here. I'm right here. And she started getting like delirious, like she saw me, but then it almost seemed like she wasn't recognizing me anymore. She just started this moaning. And we got to the point where, since I had that closure that I had with her, I did not want to have that moaning, groaning, and her calling out like that to be the last thing for me. So I was able to get over there, and she was kind of going in and out looking at me, got me some more sugar, told her how much I love her, and we left. And my aunt, her sister, stayed with her through the night, and we had our spiritual convention that Saturday. So we're at the convention, my phone rings, and it's Aunt Nat or Mama One somebody that called and said she passed. And I just said, okay. And I was at peace with it, because I knew I was at peace with her and that she was at peace. So the funeral, like I said, went off without a hitch. I mean, it was, if you could call a funeral perfect, she had one. And my cousin Brian, he did the eulogy. He did an excellent job. I was very proud of the way he did that. He did an excellent job. So now we're at the point where my daughter's gone, my grandmother's gone, and I'm starting to feel different. The difference was the survival mode started to shift. And that shift started to happen. Okay, so the shift was immediate. However, the rabbit hole was there. I could see it there. I'm trying to figure out, at this time, you're like, really, what is it there? I had closure with grandmother. You know, I've gone through other things too with my daughter, but I called myself grieving along the way anyway. And so this is what survival mode was looking like. And I went on for another year or so, and I was, I guess, really still in the robotic mode. I felt like a robot with a heart, you know, and my passion for people and my desire to help, you know, I had lost them, and I'm wanting to help other people that has lost someone. And my way of, I don't know, that was my way of trying to heal myself or help others to know that, you know, this is a part of life. These are things that will happen and does happen. So I learned that it is okay to admit when you're tired. Remember, I told you back in the other episodes, even as a caregiver, I was taking care of myself. I went to the gym every day at 6 a.m. before I would take grandmother to dialysis. I would get away. I had gone on that weekend vacation, 3-4 days. So I already knew that I was doing the things that I should do as a caregiver. And even still, that rabbit hole was over there. So on our next episode, I'm going to share the stages of the rabbit hole. Because that time came where and I'm pausing because it's almost like I'm reliving these things in a way of how can I explain it where it's understood. So that survival mode is tricky because though I was surviving, I was losing myself at the same time. And it's such a disguise that you don't see it coming. Because there again, we know, I told you my motivation for writing my book, How to Love, Stress, and Live Longer, was through my daughter and my grandmother. While I was doing the caregiving, that's why my book was dedicated to my two precious babies. And they actually read the first 2 chapters of my book. So I was even writing then as well. So I was doing all these things. And that rabbit hole said, "Come here, girl." And that's what we're going to talk about next week. That rabbit hole said, "Oh, you think you got it together. You doing all right? Yeah, you did that. You did. But come here. Let me talk. Let me holler at you." And we're going to talk about those stages next week. I went off a little bit this time too, didn't I? I apologize too for my voice. I've been having some throat issues these past couple of days. And it's been interesting too. But anyway, so next week, phases of the rabbit hole. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I think I saw Trinette on here. Yeah, I did see her. And all my family, y'all always coming through. I love it, love it, love it, love it. Love you so much. And be waiting for your time because you will be going live with me too when we get into this rabbit hole. So until next week, guys, enjoy the rest of your evening. I love you. And there's nothing you can do about it. And I hope you come back next week on purpose. Ciao. Oh, Lord. So, anybody have a DJ for me, please? There are several positions that I need filled.
I said no.
You talking about I say no. All right. This our exit music, y'all. Love you too, Melly Mel. Love you, pal. Oh, y'all had a good time today. Backstage. Southside alumni. We had a great time, like we always do. But anyway, y'all have a great evening. And I can't wait to talk about this rabbit hole. Okay? Who does this? Hold the phone while they playing. I told y'all this is some authentic stuff right here. Can't make this stuff up. But that's how open and transparent I am. It is what it is. And it's gonna be okay.